Today, we need to talk about a story that starts in a place of joy and ends in an unimaginable loss. It's about how a day of faith can, in an instant, twist into a day of mourning, and it really forces us to look at some incredibly difficult truths. I mean, that's the real question here, isn't it? A temple fair, it's supposed to be a safe space, a sanctuary for community and prayer. So what happens when that sacred ground becomes the backdrop for something so violent? Well, the answer shows us a crack, a deep-seated fracture line running just beneath the surface. Because this isn't just some abstract thought experiment. For one family, this became their devastating reality. They went to the Chimera Fair, the Jatara, hoping to get blessings for their new baby girl. Instead, they left with a heartbreak that will literally never heal. Their 2-month-old daughter is gone. Okay, so let's get into what actually happened. The story begins on February 18th in Telangana. The setting is the Kumara Jatara, a traditional temple fair. I want you to just picture it. It's vibrant, it's bustling with families. Everyone's there to pray, to be part of the community, to celebrate. It's supposed to be a place where absolutely everyone belongs. So at the center of all of this, we have this family. There's Chakhali Ganesh from the Chakhali community and his wife Munika, who's from a scheduled caste. They were there with their infant daughter and other relatives, just looking forward to a day of joy and tradition like anyone else. And this is what's so incredibly disturbing. How quickly this whole day just completely unraveled. It didn't start with some big dramatic conflict. No. It all started with a small, illegal demand for money that just ignited a firestorm of hate. So as the family is making their way to the temple, a group of men stops them, and they demand 100 rupees as an entry fee. Now, this was totally wrong. Entry to the fair is supposed to be free for everyone. Ganesh and his family, they knew this, and they politely but firmly said, "No, we're not paying."
And the men's response, well, it tells you everything you need to know. This was never really about the money. This was about power. Instead of just arguing about the fee, they unleashed this torrent of abuse. And just like that, what started as a small argument over money morphed into a vicious, caste-based attack. It laid bare the ugly prejudice that was really driving the whole thing.
And just look at this timeline. It shows you just how terrifyingly fast this all happened. On February 18th, a family arrives at a fair. Moments later, they are being brutally assaulted. And just 3 days after that, on February 21st, their baby daughter was dead. A lifetime of grief, all created in a single horrible moment. The details of what happened next are, honestly, they're just gut-wrenching. Ganesh was beaten with a heavy metal rod, the kind used to crack coconuts. The women with him, including the baby's grandmother, were grabbed and dragged by their hair. In a final desperate attempt to make it stop, Monica placed her tiny baby at the feet of her attackers, begging for mercy. But in the chaos, the baby was knocked to the ground. And after all that, the attackers robbed the family of their valuables.
And it didn't even end there. The assault ended with this chilling threat. They weren't just beaten and robbed. They were terrorized, basically exiled from their own community and forced to flee to a different town, scared for their lives.
So let's talk about what happened in the aftermath, because the family's ordeal was far from over. What began as a local crime was about to become a national outcry, as their fight for justice was really only just beginning. You know, the first charges the police filed, well, a lot of people saw them as alarmingly weak. Sure, they covered the basics of an assault, but they completely failed to address the brutal severity and the glaring caste-based motive behind the whole attack. But the community and activists, they refused to let this stand. Protests just erupted, led by groups like the Dharma Samaj Party. People took to the streets, and they demanded that the authorities see this crime for what it truly was, a vicious, caste-driven atrocity. And you know what? That pressure worked. The authorities responded. They escalated the charges in a big way, adding attempt to murder and, maybe most importantly, invoking the SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Act, a law that was created specifically to protect marginalized communities from exactly these kinds of crimes.
Now, to make things even more complicated for investigators, one of the accused men, Undiala Srinivas Reddy, actually filed a counter-complaint. He claimed that it was Ganesh and his family who started the violence by attacking him with stones. So now you have these two completely conflicting official stories that investigators have to somehow sort through.
It didn't take long for this story to just explode onto the national stage. High-profile political figures like Caste got involved, supporting the family and pushing the police for accountability. The National Human Rights Commission took up the case, and several other official groups launched their own investigations into what happened. So, when you step back from all the specific, horrifying details of this one incident, what are we really left with? Well, we're left with some profound and frankly deeply unsettling questions about the society we're all living in. And this is the part that's so crucial to understand. This wasn't just a random fight over 100 rupees. It was a symptom of an age-old sickness. It is a tragic, painful reminder that these deeply rooted prejudices can erupt with fatal consequences, poisoning the very places that are meant for community and for celebration. Which leaves us with this final, urgent question. This family was targeted for who they are, in a place that should have belonged to them just as much as anyone else. So what will it actually take to make sure that our temples, our fairs, our villages, our entire public life is truly and genuinely safe for every single person, no matter what their background is? That's the question this story demands we answer.